Yo, hey everyone, what is going on? Welcome back to a brand new but different edition of Did You See That? And I'm Mike. I've got to firstly give a massive thank you to each and every one of you who is checking out this video or even viewed a video in the past, because this year on YouTube I kind of found more of my own path and stuff I want to do. Definitely helped by a couple of close friends. This milestone this year, I aimed for 250 subscribers, but to do this video, to be able to tell you all that I've doubled that number of 500 is just absolutely insane. Kind of hard to explain how grateful I am for that. So firstly, just want to give a big thank you to each and every one of you who has subscribed to my channel but also checked out my videos. Whether you've been a day one subscriber or whether you're a brand new subscriber, I generally really appreciate it. Now recently on my Instagram, on Facebook, I came up with an idea of doing a Q&A, definitely with help of some friends, so I kind of wanted to do one myself. So here we go. I've actually compiled some questions from Facebook and Instagram and I'm going to answer them all, and some of the answers that are going to come up may even shock you. So question one comes from an awesome guy that I actually collabed with 3 times to talk about the Back to the Future trilogy, and that man's name is Esley Greer. And his question for me was, what is your favourite horror movie of all time / favourite Chucky movie? Well, gotta be honest about Chucky and Child's Play, I've only ever seen bits and pieces of odd certain movies. I never actually sat down and watched every individual one. Yes, they're definitely on the list at some point. But to answer the first part of that question, what's my favourite horror movie of all time? So if I go back to being a kid, I can definitely, honestly, sincerely tell you that I've always kind of had a little bit of a fear of Pennywise the Clown from It. Especially as a kid and watching that original 1980s version, I believe, as a kid, couldn't really watch it. I think I saw it one day when my sister had it on and she's always loved that movie. Pennywise always creeped me out until I'm a little bit older. But I also love the latest kind of renditions that we got a couple of years ago. So It has always been an awesome film that I've loved and got those kind of memories with, even as a kid. But yeah, I have to go with It. So the second question that I got is from JJ Lomas Entertainment, and Justin asked me, do you ever think Back to the Future can come back in a respectable way like Ghostbusters Afterlife? Simple answer is yes. So this is always going to be a big debate of Back to the Future fans or just movie fans in general. Now, a lot of people want to see Back to the Future 4. As for myself, not really, being honest with you. I'm really happy with the musical that we've got, and if you ever get a chance to experience the musical yourself, I 100% recommend it. What I would like to see, if they're ever going to do a rendition of Back to the Future, I wouldn't want a remake of what we've got of the trilogy. I don't think they should go that route. What they should do is maybe a sequel or a prequel. I think those would be really cool ideas. For example, if they were to do a sequel, they could still have Christopher Lloyd as Dr. Emmett Brown. I mean, he's been doing skits as Doc Brown ever since Back to the Future ended 35 plus years ago. Now, by all means, you could have Michael J. Fox in there as Marty McFly, but just acknowledge that he's got Parkinson's, and obviously he's got this experience of using DeLorean for time travel. They could even have it where he has a granddaughter or grandson, maybe team up with Doc because something's happened in the future, and they could maybe make a storyline around that where Michael J. Fox is still in the movie, Christopher Lloyd is still in the movie. They could have it where the grandson or granddaughter's going on the adventures with Doc instead, but then in the meantime have Michael J. Fox in the middle of the car on like a little like video screen, kind of still talking and giving prompts and stuff in the ventures. So he's still there, but we then got like another character as well. I think that way would be really cool. So yes, I think it could come back in a respectable way, but I do know that the directors have openly said that while they're alive, there will never be another Back to the Future movie. So, question number 3 comes from my good buddy Dave from Interpreting the Stars, who I've done many collaborations with in the past. And he says, in honour of October, season of the witch, what spell would you cast? Well, I found this to be a really interesting one because it wasn't movie related to start with. A spell, I would have to say, if I was to ever do this answer, I would say maybe an invisibility spell. That would be really cool. Imagine going one day where you're invisible. You could go even just explore so many different avenues with that. I think that would be really, really cool. But I like the question. So the next question is from an absolute legend and who's helped me massively with my YouTube channel, Anthony A. Perez. And he asks, if you could have Michael J. Fox on your channel for an interview, but you can only ask him one question, what question would that be? Such a tough question. I've met Michael J. Fox back in 2015 where I actually got to show him the portrait that I've got tattooed on my arm, and I got to explain that reason why. I would love to ask him who inspired him to get into acting, because I'm not actually sure if I know that or if that was originally in his autobiography of Lucky Man. I generally can't remember if it was. It's been a while since I've read that book, but I'd love to know who inspired him to get into acting. That's obviously made his career, and just such a magical, amazing career for the time that he had before his Parkinson's disease ultimately kind of took over. The next question comes from Emma, and she asks, in honour of finishing You, would you rather be kidnapped by Joe Goldberg or Love Quinn, and why? So if you've never seen You as of yet, or you've been watching season 3, you'll know a little bit about this, but let me just say that I would rather be kidnapped by Joe Goldberg, simply because when you're in the cage and locked up with him watching over you, you get fed. He always makes sure that you've got a lot of feed. He's always there for a good chat as well. He always stays around to have a good chat, whereas Love isn't too bothered. Worst case is she'll put an odd little treat in there now and then, and she doesn't really visit you in the cage. So I would have to go Joe Goldberg. Also, the next question comes from Emma, which is a pretty awesome. Who is my favourite cat and why is it Max? So currently we have 2 cats. We've got Max and Sebastian. Now the reason why it's Max is firstly I hold him like a little baby like this at any given time, which is awesome. But also Sebastian, he is so cute as well. But every morning he always meows and whines at the bedroom door, because the bedroom door is closed, because if it's open he'll scratch on the side of the bed drawer, which ultimately wakes me up. So we ultimately have him outside of the door, and he literally cries from like about 6:45 in the morning till 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, until you basically get out of bed. So Max is my favourite. So the next one comes from an awesome buddy that I've recently been teaming up with on the Harry Potter franchise over on his channel, Jacob Martin, and he asks, who's my favourite director? I can honestly say to you that I generally don't have a favourite director. I think that's a very good question, but it's a tough one because I love Robert Zemeckis' work, and he's done some great movies besides Back to the Future. I also love other directors for their individual movie. For example, if you can see behind me, I've actually got a physical media collection. One of the physical medias that I actually own on 4K is The Joker, and I absolutely love this movie. Or, for example, I've got Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I also love Christopher Nolan for the Dark Knight trilogy. So I don't have a favourite director, but I have favourite movies of, I would say, each director. So I hope that kind of answers that question. The next one also comes from Jacob, and I love this question. And he said, what is the most disappointing experience I've ever had in the movie theatre, but over here we call it the cinema? Quite a few, being honest with you. There's 2 examples that come to mind. The first one is around 2018/19. Now I can't remember what the film was called. It was set in kind of like an English cottage countryside kind of movie. It was okay. But essentially what happened was, I went to the cinema by myself, and it was in a small screen which only had like 4 rows. I came into the screen and I had just my sweets and a drink. You know, as always, I like to take sweets or popcorn into the cinema if I can. There was a couple that came into the cinema that was sat on the same row as me, maybe like 3rd or 4th row back out of the 4 rows that you can have. And for the first 50 minutes of this hour and 45-minute movie, they sat there with their phones bright as hell and was just playing on the phone for 50 minutes straight. They didn't even look up the screen once because it was distracted out of the corner of my eye. I could see this bright light. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe they're just maybe doing like an urgent text message or something, you know? No, they sat there for 50 minutes. Worst case is they then took their shopping bags and walked out of the cinema. And I was like, why did you even come see the movie in the first place if you're going to do that? It just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And the second viewing experience was in Jungle Cruise very recently. but I'm going to save that for a separate video, so keep your eyes peeled for that coming to the channel. Okay, so Jacob's last question is also, what are my plans post 500 subs for YouTube? Well, that is a very good question, because what I like to kind of pride myself on with my own respective channel is I like making different content. I like giving everyone a kind of feeling when they come to my channel that they don't know what is coming next. So it could be a movie review, it could be an adventure day, it could be a vlog at a gaming festival, it could be anything. Very shortly to the channel, I guess I will tell you guys now, there is a video coming out maybe within the next 1 or 2 weeks where it's going to be titled called Taking On a Massive Project, and I'm looking to actually build some Lego live on the channel, but also getting some feedback of if you'd like to see that in a live stream or as a time-lapse video, etc. That's coming to the channel very shortly, so that's one plan. But I kind of just want to expand on what I'm already doing, but also bringing some other different brand new avenues to the channel, whether that is a media pass of like a venue that's opening up close to me and I get an early access so I can show maybe the local people, but also people who live in a different country. I know Jacob does, for example. I'd also love to kind of just bring just any other suggestions people have. If they want to see me do like a food video, I'd love to do something like that. Or if they want to see me do a special kind of video, I'm open to anything on this channel. And it's just really cool to have that opportunity where, you know, people might come here for Back to the Future videos, they might come here for movie reviews, adventure days, but also having all those audience, so people just like all the content and kind of just come to see what can expand. I also want to continue on doing more live streams with movie directors or creators. So yeah, I'm always open to ideas post 500 subs. So an awesome guy and a fellow Back to the Future nerd, Shaquint or Q Reviews, asks, what are my goals on YouTube? Well, at this point in time, I'm on 500 subscribers. I'd love to get it to 1,000. That might be the goal for next year. The goal, I think, for everyone, and I think it's safe to say this as well, is ultimately, you know, the monetization on YouTube. Now, by all means, I didn't start this to be monetized on YouTube at all. I am a creative person in general, or I like to try be, and I like to try doing something different and showcasing, you know, my ideas, opinions, or trying like a new hobby, etc. So that passion is always there. It's always the underlying thing of whatever I do. I love doing YouTube, whether it's putting together a review or again, like an adventure day, whatever the case may be. I love putting that stuff together. So yeah, definitely to grow my audience sub base, bring different style videos again to the channel. Like I'm doing a Lego one very shortly, again a different one that I've not really brought to the channel before, so I want to showcase more of that. I've done things where I've shown like my Pop Funko collection. Yeah, my kind of goals on YouTube is just to continue doing what I'm doing, continue just to grow my subscriber base, and hopefully more people will engage and interact on the channel and come subscribe to the channel. For the viewers who not subscribed, who's watching the videos, doing more collabs, doing more interviews, doing more live streams as well, because I'd love to do more of those and get some more episodes of Z Talks on the channel. So the next question is again from our good buddy Dave from Interpreting the Stars, and I'm reading off my laptop the questions as I answer these, and he asks, would you rather never see an independent film screener again but see every blockbuster release ever made, or watch every independent film screener but never see another Hollywood blockbuster for as long as I live? Now that is a tough question, simply because this year alone, my partner also mentioned this to me as well. If I didn't get to see an independent film screener ever again, I wouldn't have got the likes of getting to see like The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, which is by far definitely in the top 3 of my best films of 2021. And I wouldn't have ever known that if I didn't get to see an independent film screener. It's tough because, for example, I wouldn't get a chance to see the new Batman film that's coming out, which is definitely my most anticipated movie of next year. I wouldn't get to see like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, despite how many entries that they actually make. I wouldn't get to see like Halloween and stuff. So I think it's honestly so tough to answer that question, because if I didn't get to see an independent film screener, I wouldn't have had a chance to interview the directors behind all those either. I'd probably have to go with the Hollywood movies, just because there's so many more of them, where some of the independent film screeners aren't amazing, but they're very intriguing. But the Hollywood blockbusters, again, I'm a sucker for Batman and say Back to the Future, and if they ever made Back to the Future again, I wouldn't be able to see that. So yeah, I'd have to go the Hollywood one if I ultimately had to choose. So my awesome buddy Rob, aka the Big Rob Theory, asks, what is your favourite genre of movie to review and why. Right now, I've actually really been enjoying reviewing the more indie-based movies, because if it wasn't like myself and a couple of other peers like the Big Rob Theory, Anthony Perez, Richard G, these independent films maybe wouldn't have got the showcase that they kind of deserve. Like The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain, as I said, is one of the top 3 of my movies of the year. So at this moment in time, I would say the independent movies are definitely my favourite to review. So my buddy Richard from Richard G Reviews asks, who's your favourite movie slasher? So this is where you guys are probably going to hate me right now. I wonder what the hell's going on. So as I mentioned before, I've never really seen all the Chuckies. I've seen bits and pieces. I've never really seen the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I've seen the 2010 one, parts of that one. So I've never really seen the originals, which again, I am going to add to my list. So growing up, I kind of watched a couple of slasher movies. It would either be Friday the 13th or some of the Halloween movies. For me, I would have to go Jason, just simply because I've watched more of those movies and I know more of that character than I do the others. So yeah, I'd have to go Jason, but throughout the years, I mean, in Halloween Kills, Michael Myers, I think, is definitely topped up and topped the list of slashers because of just the amount of deaths he did in one movie alone. Yeah, that's insane. So an awesome person I actually met recently named Sydney, but I am actually going to be teaming up with Sydney very shortly, ideally on a collab, asks, what got you into film? I'd say when I was younger, very, very young at this point, by the way, I always used to kind of watch a lot of Disney movies. Or my mum used to always put on Toy Story. I think Toy Story is definitely kind of one of the first movies I ever remember watching. Maybe that was on repeat quite a couple of times, and, you know, loving Woody, Buzz and the Pizza Planet, stuff like that. My mum and dad love movies and TV shows, but especially my dad loves westerns. He always has. And, you know, whether I was a kid and, you know, watching some daft TV program, you know, my dad would always have a western on in the background. I always remember those memories quite vividly. Them getting me to sit down and watch, say, Toy Story when I was very, very young at this point really got me into loving like movies, you know, like whether it's a Toy Story sequel or whether it is a different animation movie or a horror, whatever it is, because I also used to have video games, and I remember Resident Evil for the PS1 as well. So it's kind of crazy, but I guess my parents are to thank for getting me into film. However, when I was younger, I didn't get shown a lot of films, so that's why I've never seen some of the franchises I've mentioned already throughout this Q&A. So the next question comes from my sister on Instagram, and she asks, what's been my favourite movie to review? I'm going to have to say, if I had to give an ultimate one answer, I would always say, and I've never really watched this video since, but I have to maybe go with The Intent 2, which was my first actual ever movie review on the channel. Now, don't get me wrong, I've loved talking about the Back to the Future trilogy on Esley Gray's channel of Entertainment Fanatic Reviews, but if it wasn't for that Intent 2 review, which I actually did solo, and actually did pretty well for the channel as well, especially when I'd never really done YouTube before and didn't really have this kind of confidence to do that. I just thought, you know, one day, right, screw it, I'm going to do it. That review actually did really well. I actually kind of walked out of the cinema most of the way through, and I actually said that in my review as well. It was pretty much just around 3.5 minutes of me talking just straight to the camera saying this movie sucked. And yeah, I've never really visited since, but I would say because of that movie review alone and the reception that I got, so again, thank you to anyone who ever checked out that video, it really kind of helped build more of my confidence to be like, oh wow, well okay, maybe people do generally care about my opinion on this platform. So yeah, I'd have to go The Intent 2 simply because of that reason. And the next one comes from my brother Joe on Instagram as well, and he said, what is my favourite YouTube channel to watch? I don't really support a lot of the bigger YouTubers, don't get me wrong, I love the likes of Chris Stuckman and the Flick Pick. I tend to support a lot of my fellow YouTubers like Anthony Perez, Blacktastic Media, Richard G, David of the Stars, Q Reviews, Jacob, so many, Big Rob Theory, so many people I support. And because we've got this community which Anthony's made me a part of, I love supporting the smaller YouTubers because guys like, for example, like Richard, Anthony, Blacktastic, whoever I've mentioned just previously before, they're the ones who's also in the kind of same boat as myself, you know, just trying to make this as a creative passion. One day it'll get monetized, awesome. But we all have that kind of similar goal of trying to put, you know, good solid content out there for anyone who watches our videos. I would also say if I had to pick someone outside of those, I do like kind of following up on the WWE. I don't watch it often, being honest with you. I always watch the highlights on YouTube. But yeah, I tend to follow like the wrestling quite a lot besides that. So that kind of concludes my Q&A put together for this 500 subscribers special. So again, I just want to give everyone a big thank you. Honestly, sincerely, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and checking out the videos. I hope you've enjoyed this Q&A. And if you didn't get a chance to ask a question, feel free in the comment box down below to ask a question and I'll certainly answer it. Please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. And until the next time that you see me, I'll be seeing you later.